Hi everybody, Matt here from Matt Likes Comics. Before I get into today's topic, there's a couple people out there I think you should go check out. You should be checking out Big Nasty Comics if you haven't already. Rich is amazing and is really good at what he does. You need to check out SideQuest Comics. Eric is the same. Well, first of all, both of them have wicked backgrounds, but also Eric is good at. He likes a lot of the same stuff I do. He's a big Aquaman fan too, so check out his content. He's got some good stuff. And thirdly, I'd like you to check out Up and Atom Comics if you haven't, because he is going to be the next riser. You watch. He's got interesting content, and the man can draw. He's given some pieces to some friends of mine that are just absolutely fantastic. So check out Up and Atom Comics if you haven't already. Last shout out is to Chonko. I really like the intro he did for his videos. Chonko is another one. He's going to end up being big someday. You watch. He's going to pass me at some point. That's how good this guy is. Anyways, now that we've taken care of that, let's get to business. It has come to my attention on a couple of videos that the story I'm going to cover today confuses a few people, and I can see why. I've read this book 4 or 5 times myself, and although I'm able to follow it because I have the knowledge in terms of everything behind it, I knew it before I read the story, I can see why new readers would have a problem reading it. So today I'm going to cover the 2-issue miniseries, Legion of Superheroes Millenium. This is actually not primarily a Legion story, but a story about Rose and Thorn. For those not familiar with this character, Rose and Thorn started in the Golden Age as a person by the name of Rose Canton, who Rose is her normal everyday life, where Thorn is the bad person. She's a split. She's got multiple personality disorder, and therefore sometimes she's this, sometimes she's that. In the Golden Age, she ends up marrying Alan Scott, the original Green Lantern, and on their wedding night, after business was taken care of, and I'll tell you why, on their wedding night, the house that they were in went up in flames, and Rose, who was afraid her Thorn personality was coming out again, it had been suppressed for a while, but she decided to take advantage and fake her death so that she would never hurt Alan. Their one night of marriage ended up with children. The twins, Todd and Jenny, also known in Infinity Incorporated as Obsidian and Jade. And that's why it's important, as I said, that is important to know that they did have time to take care of the maritals, because there are characters based on that. The second Rose and Thorn was from the Bronze Age, late Silver, early Bronze. It's not depending on your definition. And that's key, because that is this Rose and Thorn is the one that is the star of our little adventure. Her name is Roisin Rose Forrest. Roisin Rose Forrest was created by This version was created by Robert Conagher and Ross Andrew on art. Her first appearance was the Supergirl's girlfriend, Lois Lane 105. And she became a backup feature for a little bit, like for at least a couple years. This wasn't even a 6-month thing or ever. She didn't continue when Lois, of course, went over to Superman family, but she was there. Basically, Rose is the main person. Thorn is the other side. And what would happen is Rose would go to sleep, and Thorn would wake up, and Thorn would spend the time fighting crime. In her beginning appearances, she had no superpowers, but was a highly skilled athlete, and she knew martial arts because her father was a cop. She you carried daggers, a whip, and a bandolier with small devices such as ninja stars and or jacks, things like things that people would use to more of a ninja type stuff. So at this point, that's the story. Rose and Thorn showed up in the pre-crisis with Superman, and after a while, and in post-crisis with Superman and Green Lantern on occasion, and on occasion with the Flash. She was used just what I call copyright inclusive stuff. Every so often they bring her out to make sure they kept the copyright on her. And thus we get to the Rebirth era. In the Rebirth era, Rose has gained immortality. And as this series will show, she will be living well over 1,000 years. The writer of this series is Brian Michael Bendis, and art was done by Jim Lee, Scott Nguyen, and a whole bunch of other people who are listed down the side here. Now, Jim Lee only worked on the first book, okay? But here is the page. Oh, I should be wearing this for this. Gotta have the Legion ring if I'm discussing the Legion. There we go. All right. Note the negative space on the, speaking of which, okay, on the cover here. This is Millenium 1. The book opens with Rose talking about her split personality to President Supergirl. Luthor has invented an as-of-birth method of dealing with multiple personality disorder, and she has been taking the medication for the most part. And while she's on her meds, the Thorn side of her, which is more violent, by the way, in this version, is very violent. And she kills. Unlike before, she kills. Okay? The Thorn never comes out. However, she's talking to President Supergirl because the drug has just recently been discontinued because the problem doesn't seem to exist anymore. Rose has now realized as well that she hasn't aged for a long time. And she knows that the Thorn is becoming more and more bloodthirsty, and she doesn't remember what goes on when she is the Thorn. She sees Supergirl because Thorn is killed and she wants to stop. President Supergirl promises to help her. Now, this apparently is 100 years in the future or so, and she determines her immortality is because she had been married, and her husband grew old and died, but she never gained a day in age. The next story arc we have is Rose in a city of New Gotham in action as the Thorn. She is confronted by Batman Beyond. She manages to take him out and kills two of the crooks that she was fighting in the first place before he showed up. Thorn then returns and talks to a restrained Batman while suppressing the urge to kill him. Her swearing is considered archaic language, which is a clue to Batman that she's not quite from around here. She also realizes he's not the original Batman and that she is alone in her curse. She tracked him down because she was hoping to track him down to see if he was the same as her. Go on to a bit later where we see Kamandi. Kamandi's planet, where Superman's suit is now an artifact being fought over. Thorn goes towards it, and the ape-man defending it attacks her. Thorn's reaction, after a very quick fight, is to decapitate the ape-man. And you see the head rolling. At which point, she puts on the costume and is then confronted by Kamandi saying, "Hey, that's not yours to take." Commander Kamandi starts running after her, and we next see Thorn at a base of a group called the Planeteers. She wants to join as she wants to get off Earth. She's talking with Tommy tomorrow. Tommy knows who she is. And security has been alerted because apparently the Thorn has been actually in this era very active, which is why Rose wants off the planet. But the Thorn has been very active and she is now a fugitive. And sure enough, the threat indicators have the authorities coming. She begins to run away, and then this book ends, bringing us to Legion of Superheroes Millennium 2, where the actual ring is there. Rose goes to a space museum in the 25th century. She sees an exhibit on superheroes. There's a man who comes up to talk to her and notices she has some sort of untraceable accent, but sounds like Chandler from the Bing Show. The guy thinks that she's really into the 20th century as of the slang she uses, and the speaking to him reveals her origins, so to speak. He admits that he loves the 20th century and introduces himself as Michael. This is Booster Gold. He offers to take her to the 20th century for dinner, but she runs away. The next thing we see is that there's an OMAC fighting, and he comes across Rose, who is currently Thorn in her Thorn personality, and she has seen what OMAC can do. She goes on a soliloquy about humanity having to start over again and again. They seem to go down and come back every 100 to 150 years. She then leaves while spouting more words, and OMAC looks at her puzzled. She then leaves Earth for a while. For example, and they show her in a bar where she beats up a drug dealer. They show her on other planets. And then she realizes that humans were not really meant to be out in the galaxy, and she decides, I'm going to return to Earth. And then she goes to a party on a ship and returns to Earth, only to find that the planet has been destroyed since she's been gone. And it's now just turned into a bunch of little city globes that are held together by metal beams and gravity. She has heard of and goes to visit the Legion of Superheroes, where she introduces herself and begins to tell them her story. Now, the part that the people that have talked to me were finding difficult to follow was the fact that all these different Earths, because we've been talked about, like Kamandi is a different Earth, and so is OMAC's Earth. Booster Gold is part of regular Earth. Everybody remembers that, as is the Legion of Superheroes. But what has happened here is they've taken a lot of different parts to the future of Earth and have brought them together and put it over 1,000-year timeline. Because there's the talk in the OMAC era about how the world was talking animals for a while, but humans recovered. Then, of course, during the OMAC era, the uber rich were destroying things again, and Earth was rebuilding again, which is why she comments about humanity keeps doing this unto themselves and why she need to get off the planet. She also didn't want her Thorn personality to be killing people. Because, as I said, this drug that kept her from turning into Thorn for the was discontinued back in the era of President Supergirl. And President Supergirl being the first one is allegedly, it's not listed here, but in every other source that has a President Supergirl in there, it's the 22nd century. So, as I said, it's Earth as it slowly moves, and we see what happens over the next 1,000 years. And of course, Rose, having been born in the 20th century, so on and so forth, goes on and on and on. And by the end of the book, of the series, I mean the 2 books, Rose is in a situation where she's not sure why she's got these powers, why she's alone, and when she looks to the Legion, she actually seems, for the first time in the entire series, she seems comfortable. This series continues into that Legion of Superheroes series from 2018. I believe that's when this series came out. Because it was not long after Rebirth. It could have been 2019. Jonathan Kent was a member, and he was accelerated to teenagers when he was. Now, granted, this story leads to the one Legion that I'm not a big fan of. The Legion series that follows this was only 10 issues long. It was disjointed. Too many characters were introduced at once. And I bring this up because they made significant changes to a lot of the characters, so you didn't get a chance to see what kind of characterization they've changed them to as well. It felt overcrowded and undeveloped. So I'm not surprised it was canceled after 10 issues, but that's neither here nor there. The point is, if you read this, take it at face value. Earth did this, then this happened, then this happened, then this happened, and you should have no problems following. Just make an acceptance that everything happened to our planet. Well, Earth, the Earth of the DC heroes. Also, one thing that I think is not going to happen in future episodes is the destruction of Earth. The destruction of Earth was a throwback to when the Dominators destroyed Earth in Volume 3 of the Legion, which has been retconned out. Because if you've seen Volume 5 and 6 of the Legion, they're on our planet. Our planet is still in one piece. Again, this is like they've taken a bunch of alternate Earths from continuity and brought them into a story together. Issues 1 and 2. I like this partly because I like the Rose Thorn character, and partly because I like alternative histories, both past and future. It's one of the reasons I like comic books. Please like, subscribe, and comment below with regards to anything you may have from this video. If you haven't read this series, I recommend you read it. I didn't give every detail to it. There are a lot of details still left in there to discover. And I want to know if you have read this, if you have read the Legion series I'm referring to, that's Volume 7, and what your thoughts on it were. As I said, like, subscribe, and comment below. I thank you very much for joining me today. My name's Matt, and I like comics, and I hope you do too. Thank you.